YouTube channel is basically dying. Views are going down, subscribers are going down. But listen, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. All right. I'm going to share some awesome French rap with you. Even if you are English speaking, and most English speaking people don't want to hear good French rap, but I'm going to play some of the music for you. I'm going to even get rid of the dang revenue I would get on this video. Because listen, there is a place in the world where there is some good stuff happening in mainstream rap. Some of it's happening in America, but it's definitely happening in France. It's lyrical, it's varied. The name of the artist, I don't even know how to pronounce it. I think it's supposed to be Yvnnis, but I'm not really quite sure because I don't really understand. Maybe it's Yanis. I don't know, but it's Vnnis. Okay, it's lyrical, it's varied, it's a potpourri of all these different kinds of sounds, like boom bap to like modern French rap, but too much singing, to like there's a little bit of rage rap in there. There's a lot of the great rhythmic influence from Africa, which comes up organically in French rap music and less organically in American rap music. There's some Stromae style beats in here. There's some Nicholas Craven style beats in here. I tell you, it's like a great throwback to some, the greats of old school French hip hop, the time of the 90s that got me into French rap. That's what I hear here. It's exactly what I want. So I'm just making this video right now because I want you, the real ones, not the people who hang around for me to say, Drakety, Drakety, Drake, a Drake, a Drake, a Drakety, Drakety, Drake. I'm talking the real ones who want to hear about good new music, especially good new hip hop you might not be up on. All right. So who is Vanis Yanis? I don't know. I don't know how to say his name. Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who was preparing this video while giving a test in my French 111 class. You know, he's an interesting guy because he's not super politically engaged, but as is always the case with French rap, going all the way back to the 90s and even the 80s, French rap reflects a reality of France that sometimes it is unaware of itself and definitely does not want to communicate to the rest of the world, which is it is a post-colonial country. It is a place that is filled with many people not of European origin. So I'm not really quite sure who Yvnnis is, exactly where he's from, but I'll tell you this. He's not lying. He's not rapping about dealing cocaine. He's not rapping about having lots of guns. Okay, he basically raps about being a good rapper and having fast cars. And oh my God, there's so many. Listen, if you're into football, if you're into soccer, there's some really great sports references here. Just a little side note: isn't it cool that French rappers use the term dribbler, to dribble as a way of indicating how good they are at rapping? I don't know. I feel like that's a really good reference, a good way of thinking about the way that a rapper flows. It is sort of like that. It's like you're kicking the ball and you're moving around other people. It's maybe a better metaphor than even dribbling a basketball. I don't know. It seems to me to be a pretty good metaphor for what rap is. But he's got this skill with language, really good production all the way throughout. And again, it's this variety. I use the term potpourri, which is kind of a joke because potpourri comes from the French term rotten pot. like pourri means rotten, but what it means in English is it's kind of like a grab bag. It's a whole bunch of different things put together. And I'm telling you, this guy is super mysterious. I know he's from le 94, the 94. So if you don't understand how French rap works, this these there was no white flight in central cities in Europe, right? They just stayed in the center of the city. So when people moved in the post-war period into European cities, and this is especially true in France, they moved to the suburbs, to the outskirts, into gigantic housing buildings. And in France, you identify them by their area code, by their zip code. In this case, they're from the 94. Okay. And for most rappers, yeah, you hear trains often because you have the train, you have the RER trains that go through that take people from the suburbs to the center of the city. Anyways, so that's where he's from. He's from Val-de-Marne. I don't know his the origin of his family. He is clearly not white, but there's a lot of references to like Morocco in here, but I don't know. I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say from Benin, Benin, that little country there, which was a former French colony, because he makes several references to it. But it doesn't really matter because what matters is he's French, and that's the reality. That when I say French person, what you should be thinking of is Vanis or Yanis. or MHD. That's what you should be thinking of when you think of what a French person is, not some guy with a little tiny mustache. So let's get into it, all right? Let me just share a song with you so you can see what this guy is all about. All right, the song's called Lebras, and this is, kind of a hard, Yeezy-esque, rage-esque start with the voice and the low synths. There's even a little kind of old school moment with him just kind of being like, uh, yeah. It's a short song. My one problem with Yvnnis is the songs are too short. I need more verses, but that's okay. This great rising horns. I don't understand all the lyrics. I am a French professor, but I don't speak all the slang. I know moula means like money, and unfortunately I know a lot of the sports references. C'est merde, c'est la Corse, j'ai la vitesse d'Aubameyang. Aubameyang is one of the best players in Ligue 1. He plays for the best number one. He plays for the Anyways, he plays. I was going to get my scarf. He plays for the number one team in France, Olympique de Marseille, and he's very fast. You hear that in there. If you listen more carefully, there's also a reference to Hansi Flick, uh, German car, German chick. It's like I'm taking myself for Hansi Flick. Just listen, even if you can't understand the lyrics. I don't blame you. Just listen to the flow, listen to the way it sounds, and you tell me you wouldn't be psyched if this wasn't some music coming up in English. All right, so I'm going to share this with you. I am not going to be able to listen while you're listening. So like if it just seems like I'm nodding my head at the wrong time, that's why. So here's Yvnnis, les bras, les bras. Let's go.
C'est des braves. Je vais plus à la salle. Maintenant ce qui porte les problèmes c'est les bras. C'est les bras. Vu qu'aller dans la scène, ma peu est cali, mon shit il est gras. On voit que moi dans la salle. Vu que j'écris des poèmes, vu que j'écris des basses. Vu que j'écris des quoi. Vu que j'écris des basses. Et trop de boulettes sur le damier. Si c'est ouvert, je mets le panier. Je fais la moulage, dors tu parles ton âge. Dormais à ton âge, dors j'étais pas né. Cette année, dis-moi y'a combien de potes que j'ai cramé. J'irai au moins des dizaines au bas. Moi cette merde c'est la cour, j'ai la vitesse d'Obama. Yang, andalé, je m'emballais. Si je te taque mon frérot, moi je vise pas les jambes. Tous les MC disparaissent, je fais mes sous, je disparais. En tout cas je dis pas les gens. À notre cadence tu vas galette. Je découpe mon tank sur la garette. J'écoute mon son sur l'appareil. Quand ça parle en CA et sache qu'on apparaît. Bâtard, je sais que t'as le mort. Quand il vend mon avance il flippe. Voiture allemande, raclie allemande. Comme si je me prends pour Andy Flick. Laisse-moi le time, je finis dans le time. Tu verras que le négro est pas si bête. Je te plie sur un, pas besoin de si fit. Mon frérot, la vie est ainsi faite. Mon négro, je t'assure qu'on est prêt. J'ai compté les rats, j'ai compté les traits, compté les rats.
All right, that's about as much as I can take of that. Hey, there's a chance, by the way, that I'm going to get copyright struck and that I won't even be allowed to release that. If that's the case, what you just heard right there, what you just saw right there was me pausing everything, was me pausing everything and cutting it out. I'll include a link for you to go listen to this absolutely dope song. And the album is not all like that. It is partially like that. It's not all like that. The next song is called Présidentiel, Presidential. Kind of a nice Afro-trap beat. Afro-trap is a subgenre of trap that was invented by MHD in France last decade, and it's got these great rhythms. And again, because the connection between Africa and France is much closer in terms of not just geography, but in terms of like space and time, the music of French rap is often much more explicitly African in its rhythms and its sounds. Okay, it's obviously the source of 99.9% of all popular music is Africa, right? But the distance between the popular music and Africa is great in America in terms of hundreds of years as opposed to tens of years. And just, I don't know. He just has this great flow. J'ai le carré, la cali, hein, je retombe toujours sur mes deux pattes comme le logo sur l'avant de la Ferrari. So he's like, I always land on 2 feet, like the logo in front of a Ferrari. He just gets this kind of like, je retombe toujours sur mes deux pattes comme le logo sur la vente de l'Ferrari. I don't know, just the way he says it. J'ai tellement de flow dans la valise, tu peux pas dire que miser sur moi, c'est un pari. I have so much flow in my suitcase, in my bag, that you can't even say that betting on me is a gamble. Awesome. Next song is called Abomey, comes Abomey, comes right from the last song. Fast rhyming of this whole beat. And Abomey said he'd take a vacation there, and that's a place in Benin, Benin. And I don't even mind the auto-tune singing here. Normally it drives me crazy because listen, French rap has gone crazy. Okay. As a matter of fact, There's a My favorite team is l'Olympique de Marseille, and there's a rapper who actually has an advertisement on their jersey. I can't listen to his music for even 1 second. I listen to Jewel for 1 second. I lose my mind. It's the worst stuff I've ever heard. Please tell me, if you are French, tell me what is good about Jewel. I want to like Jewel, okay? I lived in Marseille for a year because of groups like the Troisième Œil and I Am, but I just can't listen to it because it's too just blech. But when this is auto-tuned, it's not too bad. Je suis devant le but, donc je gère ma frappe en ralentissant. Le ralentissant. So he's talking about like being in front of the goal before he goes. Then he gets Big Shot, a color show. So he was on Colors, that whole rap show, the music show that they have in many different languages on YouTube. I suggest you watch that because it's the potpourri. It's everything all mixed together. It starts off with kind of a big beat sound. He talks about le bled, which is the term for the home country, which is one of the most important terms in French rap because their relationship to Africa is so direct. Je retourne jamais ma veste comme le logo sur l'enjoliveur. Appelle-moi Don comme Sonny. Je bois le Don, je me prends pour Toliver. So call me Don like Sonny. So I think he's talking about like Sonny Corleone. Je bois le Don, I drink Don Perignon. I take myself for Tolliver like Don Tolliver. Je fous la merde comme Oliver. I mess it up like Oliver. I don't know which one. Mon plug, c'est Ollivander. Talking about the Harry Potter, Ollivander, magic wands. Sous le capot, il me faut au moins 600 Jolly Jumper. So this is an idea of his flow in French, where he's got enjoliveur, toliver, ollivander, et Jolly Jumper. Jolly Jumper is the name of the horse from Lucky Luke, which is a French cartoon about the American Wild West. Let's see if I can if I can show you what Jolly Jumper looks like. There he is. There's Jolly Jumper. Great mixture of sounds, rhymes, and there's like 5 different parts to the song. Malamé is super auto-tuned, and I kind of don't like it, but it's so poetic. It's so poetic. À l'heure où les oiseaux et les zombies se croisent, près de l'ombre, moi, j'aurais déjà quitté Paris. At the time when birds and zombies cross paths close to the shadows, I would have already left Paris. Fascinating language. That's the one thing about the French. Their public education system's pretty good. So even if people don't end up going to college and getting higher education, they end up being fairly poetic. They learn in high school, they learn a lot of poetics and they learn a lot of philosophy as opposed to American high school. And then just the joy of the language. Je suis dans le fer, ma gueule, je pense qu'à Wham, je suis comme George Michael. So I am in Je suis dans le fer. So I believe that means I am in hell, but he's making it shorter. It's de l'enfer. Ma gueule, he's talking about his mouth, his face. Je pense que à Wham. So this is the way. There's a French slang that he uses all the time. It's called l'envers, which is reversing syllables. Okay, so the most famous way of doing Verlan, is just to swap the syllables one way or another, right? So the easiest one to understand is that the word for like a hood or sort of like a ghetto or sort of like a conglomeration of high rises is a cité, and they call that a TC. Okay, you see how they swap that around? It's like street slang. So he says, "Je pense qu'à Wam," which is this, which is his way of saying moi, as in me. So I only think of myself. Je pense que à Wam. A wham. So instead of saying moi, he says wham. And wham is a homophone for the band Wham, Women Hate All Men, with Andrew Ridgeley and George Michael. Je suis dans la ferme à gueule, je pense qu'à wham, je suis comme George Michael. Hilarious, awesome, language, everything, wonderful. Pas du genre à gang is this really well produced song. This song's trying to get a Grammy, a French Grammy, trying to get a César. So beautifully made. I don't even understand what any of this means. I don't know what gang means. I looked it up. I'm not the kind of guy to gang. The production, I just killed it. I let it speak for the Finguin. I don't know what Fangouin means, Bara is cinematic and beautiful. Almost reminds me of Careless Whisper, actually. The drum's a little bit boring, but I love the strings and guitar. Baha is a Nuchi term, which is a dialect in Nigeria, which means work. Awesome. Some Travis Scott yelling, some Arabic pronunciation in the chorus. I don't know why. Oublié is the lowest point of the album, just because I don't know. I don't really like the feature of this G9, a little bit too modern. Emoticon, this has kind of a Stromae style thing here, kind of a Stromae style rap thing. Je t'aime, t'aime, mon. So this is playing around with the idea that like tellement is how you say so much. So it's trying to say I love you so much, but also mon is how you'd say to lie. So it's kind of playing on this idea of like, are they saying I love you, I'm lying, or are they saying I love you so much? But whatever it is, it creates this kind of like dancey je t'aime, mem. It's great. And then we get to break, which is a killer rage style, almost like a French style fiend, but very rhythmically interesting. Opens up with this guy, JRK 19, which means JRK 19. The clarity of his voice is great. The voice it gets heavier. You got to watch the. I'll include a trailer for this one too. Then we get to Radio Cotonou, which has these great African productions. Again, it's more connected to Africa, African singing in the chorus. And it's Cotonou is another place in Benin. So that I guess supports the idea that he is of Beninian origin? Beninese? Beninian? Help me. I don't know. I don't know. Sud de la France. This has kind of like an underwater Nicholas Craven style beat. I like how he talks about always being in the studio. Like that's like the main thing. The guy talks about cars, but he talks a lot about being in the studio. Dans le stud. He has this great gentle flow. He talks about pléonasme, which is when you over describe something. Yves Ballon d'Or pour moi c'est un pléonasme. Saying for him to get the Ballon d'Or, which is the award for best soccer player of the year, which went to Ousmane Dembele. Even though I hate PSG, I love the French team. I love Ousmane Dembele. I'm glad he won. Aubameyang should get it next year. Yvon Ballon d'Or, pour moi, c'est un pléonasme. That's like he's saying like it's saying too much. Like you don't even need to say it because he is synonymous with the Ballon d'Or. I love the way the beat just develops here, these kind of trailing sounds. The album ends with Do Not Disturb, with kind of like indie pop singing, sort of like Stan style. And then it becomes a club song, the can you tell I don't usually record standing up? I'm loving standing up. J'attends pas de happy ending. Did you know that there's no French word for happy ending? Because the French are not children, Americans. The French know that things do not end happily all the time. They know that happy endings are like an American construct. So I'm not waiting for a happy ending. Je phase sur le plafond du BNB. I guess it means he's just kind of like tripping out on the floor of his BNB. When I am on my BMD, I don't know what that means. Je me suis mis en DND. So he's actually using do not disturb in a very absol way, but he's also helping you learn French. It is the past tense of a reflexive verb, which you have to conjugate with être. Je me suis mis en DND. Beautiful. Thank you so much for the French lesson. If I still had a French major to teach, I would teach them this song. It's a mellow song, but it's also kind of exciting. There was one moment I was listening to that song Bara, and I was driving to work, right? And I didn't even notice. Okay, I was driving, and I was driving with my knees, and I was like clapping along like a lunatic because I wasn't even trying to. I was just clapping along. Just this album gets you going. It's just I don't know. It's what I love in rap music and just happens to be in French. So you check it out and smash the like bucket and share this. If you want good stuff, you have to support it, okay? All right. Till next time. There's the camera.